Okay, so coming back today, we're looking at a consolidation above Vwap playbook set up by KGN. We're going to also talk about some of the other entry points and stuff because we were talking about it intraday, but the main one was definitely here. We did end up taking this trade, and I'll show you kind of where we took it, but I'll show you how you should have traded it, and then we'll do some review of the basic tape as well. So what is a consolidation above Vwap? The stock rallies and consolidates above Vwap, not holding underneath it, and basically what it ends up doing is it consolidates and gets tighter until it eventually basically breaks out to one side. So you want the stock to move in the direction of the consolidation, then consolidate in that direction above Vwap. So for example, let's say we're looking for a long, it will rally and then consolidate above Vwap and then break out. It's strengthened by technical levels, and then we'll get into that kind of what the technical levels were for this trade, and we'll kind of go through that in a bit more detail. So how was the extra position? So you can see here how the extra actually moved intraday. So you can see didn't move a crazy amount. It was kind of going up, but pretty much flat. And then on the next slide, so what was the catalyst? So this was actually a second day play, but the catalyst basically was that KGN had released a guidance update and they missed their guidance by over 10%. This catalyst was important because the sentiment was already negative, like we spoke about in the other video. So this catalyst wasn't new, so the catalyst it brought more people to the screen, but it didn't necessarily mean that it was definitely going to be a short, but we did plan for both sides. So the stock information, the previous day's closing price was 876. The gap down was basically none. It didn't really gap anywhere. The short float was still about 10%. Shares on issue, same, 106 million. General trend was down. The ATR was 43. Sector insurance, and the 52-week low was now 871. But if you remember, yesterday's 52-week low prior to the actual drop was 950. So that still came into play, and we're going to talk about how it came into play. So daily positioning, you can see it's pretty extended to the downside. Huge volume on the previous sell down, and you can see that it had a bit of a gap as well. And it did end up closing in the bottom 10% of the range, so we were a bit more short biased. So the intraday setups, you can see there was like 4 primary setups that we saw. So there was the morning drive play, which was the defense of yesterday's low, and then it just rallied from there. But we'll get a bit more into that on the trade when we get into the trade management. Then there was the main one that we're going to be focusing on, the consolidation above Vwap. And then the VCP kind of technical setup, as well as kind of a basic trend, no pullback, higher high, higher low type thing with volume. And so on the next one, so we'll show the morning focus here. So you can see basically that it defended the level very clearly. You could have easily taken a starter there, but I probably would have been a bit more likely to take a starter on the second candle as it held Vwap a little bit and held the next level, which was 77 a little bit as well. And then as it rallies up, there's a couple, you first would exit into the first sign of weakness, and then any kind of points here, any ads that you would have had, you would not have held them through Vwap. So the Vwap reclaim was your sign of your stop. And then you get into the next section, which the volume is decreasing, the range is tightening above a technical level. So the technical level is $9. And so as it's kind of the range is tightening and everything like that, when it breaks out in high volume. So you can add at the bottom of that range, or you can just add on the high volume breakout. If you're adding on the high volume breakout, then you don't want to have your stop much more below than the low of the consolidation pattern, probably even less than that. But the add towards the bottom would have been stopped out at Vwap as well. So again, you exit into the first sign of weakness, and then you exit as it starts to reject from the 45, which, as we spoke about, was the previous 52-week low. And so then the next is the afternoon focus. definitely could re-add on the high volume technical break of the level, and then you would have to exit as it started to show some weakness, lower high, and then re-adding with the technical, with the higher low setup and stuff. You could have done that, but you would not want to be full sides on that because it wasn't as good of a setup. And then adding through the retest of the high, and then cutting into the weakness, adding again into the hold of the high of the previous high, and then exiting into the weakness around 10 on the EMA breaks at the primary exits, where we want to be out at least maybe 75%. So now we're going to have a look at the tape. So the tape was really clear here. This is actually what happened when it broke out. So you can see, so it's holding the 906. The buyers and sellers, they're not being too aggressive. A lot more sellers stacked on the sell side. And they try and press it down, but there's a bit of reload buying, and then the buyers start to move up. And as they start to move up, they get a lot more aggressive, more people are getting in, and the walls are just being taken. And then as the walls are being taken, the thing to notice is that the buyers instantly stack, right? So the buyers are instantly stacking the levels. So that shows that there's still real interested buyers. And if you look at the tape, you can see that a lot of those orders, those bigger orders that they just took, were real orders. So a lot of the volume was actually being done on the tape. And so that was a really clear setup to see, really good setup that you often see. It's a little bit more murky than that. That one was very clear, and there wasn't too many fakes or anything like that. But definitely a good tape moment to notice and keep looking over, see what you can do about remembering to see that abnormal strength and stuff like that. So what could we have done better? We definitely could have hit the consolidation with more tiers. At the time, we weren't too interested in the stock as the RVOL wasn't high enough for us typically, but there was definitely room for adding more tiers, especially on the breakouts and stuff like that. We definitely should have held for the bigger move as well. We ended up being a bit too scalpy, but that will come with trading the setup more and more as we go on. But yeah, so any questions, guys? All right. Okay. All right. Well, cheers for listening.